What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you have time with movie, TV shows, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you have come to the right place. And like I said, today we are talking about Smile 2. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, I was pretty excited coming into Smile 2 because the original Smile from a couple years ago was actually a big surprise horror movie for me. It was one of those movies that I thought was going to be a very cheesy concept and not be able to execute it properly. And they did such a fantastic job with that concept in the original Smile that it made me extremely excited for this second one. And I like the idea of what they were trying to do with having someone that's like a big popular pop star and her having to deal with all these different things that we saw in the original Smile, but having so much more focus on her because of how famous she is. I felt like that was going to be a very fun and interesting way to explore this creature, this demon, whatever it is, as it starts to torment her. But before I give you my reasons why I like, dislike, or whatever the case may be with Smile 2, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, remember to like and subscribe. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my pros. Now, starting with my pros, I kind of already mentioned already, but I like the concept of this movie, where it's kind of going, how it got, transferred from our regular character that we had in the previous movie, that she was a psychiatrist, to Kyle Garner's character, to this kind of secondary side character, now into Sky Riley, our main protagonist of this movie, who is this like really big pop star. I like the concept of her being the next victim of this demon and her trying to figure out how to get around this in her life as she's about to go back on tour. I really like how we started getting some stuff about her, how she has substance abuse, and that definitely helps people not believe her and all these visions that she's starting to see. And I like the way that we're trying to explore, again, another concept. In the first one, we kind of were talking about the idea of mental illness patients and how we don't really believe what they're saying because they have some sort of mental illness and are seeing visions, and we don't take them as seriously. I like how on this one they explore that idea, but the bigger idea is also about corporate and money hungry people, and even people that are supposed to be close to you and love you and are supposed to try to take care of you. All they care about is you propelling your profession forward and just making more money, where she's literally telling, like, I am not suitable to perform on a live stage. And everyone just keeps telling her, well, think about the tour, think about the tour. So we're starting to explore another idea of famous people when they're going through some sort of issue in their life. A lot of people just put them on the sideline and want them to focus more so on the profits, the things that they're doing in their life to make money, to make corporate money. So I do like that idea that we're trying to explore here, with her having some sort of substance abuse in previously and her trying to kind of get back into her normal life, her normal performance life, and having this smile demon just tormenting her for a week. And I think performances are good from our main actress. I forget her name, but the one that plays Sky Riley. She's also in Aladdin as well. I haven't seen her in too many things, but I think she does a fantastic job within this role, and she's for sure definitely the standout. There's a lot of other great performances within this movie, but we do focus a lot on her, of course. And I do think she's a great actress and does what she needs to do here, and how she has little switch ups between being someone who's being tormented and kind of depressed and dealing with substance abuse, to switching up and trying to be a performer and trying to be a positive person. And when she's going crazy and kind of fighting against this demon, trying to take control, I think she gives really great performances emotionally, physically, and also her singing abilities. If she is the one singing, I think she is. She's a great singer as well. So I did extremely enjoy this actress on screen. I think she was a great standout within this movie. And I did enjoy some of the effects that we got here, especially something like the first kill that happens, that Sky Riley actually experiences herself to get the demon transferred over to her. Some of the practical effects and gore that we see in this movie were actually done very well, and some of the effects were done very well. So I do champion the amount of practical effects that we get here. They're not all practical by any means. There's a lot of CGI in this movie, which we'll get into a little bit later, but the few that are practical, I think were done very well and visually looked pretty good. And lastly, I think directing here was done pretty well as well. Shot choices, cinematography was very beautiful, and it was very dazzling and pleasing to see on screen. So even though I might have some issues with the way this movie kind of went, I think overall directing, pacing, it all felt pretty good for the most part throughout the entire runtime. But heading on into my cons, and I have quite a few things to kind of bring up here. One, I do think this movie was fairly slow towards the beginning. You know, not that the movie felt slow, but it felt like nothing about this Smile Demon was really happening yet. There was a lot of talking, there was a lot of singing and dancing, and seeing Sky Riley trying to perform and her dealing with her substance abuse. Very minimal stuff in the first hour or so had really anything to do with the Smile Demon actually tormenting her. And I really wish we got a little bit more of that kind of creepy imagery of just seeing certain figures smiling off in the distance, because I think that would have been a much better way to kind of portray her substance abuse and her trying to get over that stuff. But that first hour or so, there wasn't really much going on in terms of the actual Smile Demon entity. It was a lot more of her personal life, trying to get back on track and performing again and dealing with her substance abuse and things like that. So although I still think it was paced very well, there wasn't a lot that really was intriguing me about this Smile portion of it. And one thing that was actually kind of frustrating throughout the entire movie was the fake out sequences. You know, there was a lot of fake out sequences where you didn't know what was real, what was fake, what was just all in her head, what was the Smile Demon tricking her to believe was actually going on. There was a lot of that in this movie. And there was some of it in the first one too, where, you know, we have the psychiatrist getting the fake phone call, or her thinking that she defeated the demon and she actually didn't and goes back. And those sequences tend to be anywhere between 2 to 5 minutes long, maybe even 10 minutes long, of her believing these things. And that's fine if there's a few fake outs. I understand the demon is trying to mess with this victim's head and trying to make it go crazy so it can feed on this fear from the victim. However, in this movie, there was like 45-minute long sequences that completely they just cut and tell you that all of that was in her head. All of that was fake. And that's very frustrating, because by the end of the movie, you don't know what was real, what was fake. It gives you certain answers to what was fake, but there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that were brought up, a lot of interesting ideas to try to go against this demon, and it never gets explored because it was just a big fake out. So you don't know if these ideas were actually real, if the person that she was talking to try to help her was actually a real person. So there's a lot of things in this movie where you go through a huge plot points, huge sequences that are very impactful to the main character, and it just tells you that all of that was in her head. All of that was fake. And that is very frustrating, that by the end of it, I mean, I don't even know if the ending was real either. There's so many things in this movie where it's just not, it just wasn't satisfying where the plot was going. There was so many more ideas that were very interesting that I wish we explored. And there was a sequence that we've seen in the trailer where they talk about, you know, her trying to go against the demon and actually fight back to try to end it once and for all. That idea, that concept was so interesting, and I wish that was the ending and that was where we actually headed next in this franchise, in this movie. And it just, again, fakes you out, and that is just a big no for me. I was very disappointed in the way that was taken care of, and I wish we got a lot more lore. You know, there's so many answers, or so many questions I should say, from the first movie that you have about what this Smile monster demon entity is, and I thought they were going to explore a lot more things in this second film, and they really don't expand on any of it. There is no lore, there is no expansion of what this thing is, why it does this, where did it come from, how far ago did this start. We don't get anything, no additional lore in that I at least saw or heard as watching this movie. And that is very disappointing for me, because I want sequels to give you a little bit more. They don't have to give you everything. They don't have to give you all the answers, all the questions you had to be answered perfectly and spelled out for you. I don't necessarily need that, but I want a little bit, at least a little bit, so it continues for me to have interest in this thing, a little bit more intrigue, so that if there is a third movie or whatever the case may be, I want to continue following what this is. I left this movie feeling kind of like, okay, that was just a random victim. We didn't necessarily need a movie on this person. This could have been another one of those incidents that led to another person. I wish this had a much more conclusive ending and didn't feel like we just spent time with this character just to kind of see her being tormented the entire time. And speaking of which, the ending, very, very predictable, very, very, very easy to tell where this was where it was gonna end. Me and my girlfriend were there. First 5 minutes, we predict exactly where this movie was gonna end, and that's exactly the only way this movie could have ended. When you look at all the pieces of this film, there's only one way to make this movie end where it feels as impactful as the first one, or try to go beyond the first one. And well, it's very easy to tell. It's a cool concept, but where do we go from here? Because this is obviously not a definitive ending. There's more to tell in this story. Whether we're gonna get a sequel or we're gonna get a prequel, I'm not sure how this movie is gonna do in the box office to even determine if we're gonna get another film in this franchise. But it was a very easy ending, and the way they executed the ending, I didn't think it was that satisfying. Like I said, it was very predictable, and it wasn't as shocking as the first film. And even the monster, the smile demon at the end of this movie, did not look good. It looked super CGI heavy. There was a lot of sequences that was very, very CGI heavy in this movie, especially this final sequence scene, the smile demon, once again, super, super unsatisfying of the way it looked. It looked so much better in the first film. This one was just way too digital, way too fake. It looked too goofy, and it just really, really watered down the effectiveness of that final sequence. And lastly, before I get too far into it, the smile, I think, was not utilized as good it was in the first film. Most of the time we saw a smile from just a regular person, it was in broad daylight in a setting that wasn't creepy, or you had like 50 people smiling at this, at this one character, and again in her apartment in broad daylight. It just wasn't creepy anymore. It just felt gimmicky, and that's what I was worried about the original Smile when it was getting announced, and it feels gimmicky now. It felt gimmicky, so it just wasn't as effective. It wasn't as creepy. There's a lot of people saying this movie was even scarier than the first one, and I just didn't feel it. And it was very, very disappointing on the actual creepy aesthetics of it. The first one was so effective, and going into this one, it just didn't feel scary anymore. But that's going to be it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about Smile 2 in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear all of you guys' thoughts. I had a decent time with it. It didn't really offend me, but it's not a movie that I really would see myself rewatching. But we'll see where this franchise goes from here. If there is going to be a third one, only time will tell. But again, if you guys like talking about the movie, TV show, or video game related, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.